Hello students, in this module we'll be studying about the kingdom Protista. Fine. Now students, all single-celled eukaryotes, they are placed under the kingdom Protista, but the boundaries of this kingdom are not well defined. Since moulds and protozoans under Protista, which are member of Protista, are primarily aquatic, this kingdom forms a link with the other dealing with plants, animals and fungi. Being eukaryotic, the protistian cell body contains a well-defined nucleus and other membrane-bound organelle. Some have flagella or cilia. Protists reproduce asexually and sexually by a process involving cell fusion and zygote formation. Now students, kingdom Protista includes chrysophytes, dinoflagellates, protozoans, slime moulds and Eugelenoids. So you can see here students, plant-like Protista we have diatoms, dinoflagellates, and animal-like Protista, amoeba, ciliates, flagellates. Students, here are some disease that are being caused up by the Protista. Like we have the amoeba histolytica, which causes the disease amoebic dysentery, where the vector is water and the symptom is diarrhea. Fine. Similarly, the next Protista we are having is giardia, which cause the fever, and the name of the disease is giardiasis. The vector or the carrier is water in this case, and the symptoms includes are diarrhea or vomiting. Next we have is the trypanosoma, where the vector is CC fly and the disease caused is African sleeping sickness. Next we have is plasmodium. Here the vector is female Anopheles mosquito and the disease caused is malaria. Fine. So here are these were the protistans. Now students, coming on to the first type, that is the chrysophytes. Fine. This group includes diatoms and golden algae. Students, they are found in fresh water as well as in marine environment. They are microscopic and float passively in water current. Most of them are photosynthetic. Students, in diatoms, the cell walls form two thin overlapping shells which fit together as in a soap box. The walls are embedded with silica and thus the walls are indestructible. Thus, diatoms have left behind large amount of cell wall deposits in their habitat, and this accumulation over billions of years is referred to as diatomaceous earth. Being gritty, this soil is used in polishing, filtration of oil and syrups. Students, diatoms, they are the chief producers in the oceans. Next one we have is dinoflagellates. Fine. So these organisms are mostly marine and photosynthetic. They appear yellow, green, brown, blue or red depending upon the main pigments present in their cells. Students, the cell wall has stiff cellulose plates on their the outer surface. Fine. And most of them have two flagella which helps in their locomotion. One lies longitudinally and the other transversely in a furrow between the wall plates. Example you can see is the gonilox, fine, which undergoes such rapid multiplication that they make the sea appear red. Fine. And the toxin released by such large number may even kill other marine animals such as fishes. So you can see here these are the red types. Fine. The red dinoflagellates, they undergo the rapid multiplication, students, and make this sea look like red in color. Fine. Next we have is Eugelenoids. Majority of them are freshwater organisms which are found in stagnant water. Students, here stagnant means which is not moving. Instead of a cell wall, they have a protein-rich layer called pellicule which makes their body flexible. They have two flagella, a short and a long one. So you can see here in this diagram, one is short flagella, another one is long. Though they are photosynthetic in the presence of sunlight, when they deprived of sunlight, they behave like heterotrophs by predating on other smaller organisms. Fine. Example is Euglena students. So you can see here. And interestingly, the pigments of euglenoids, they are identical to those present in higher plants. So that is why this is considered to be plant as well as animal. I hope this thing is clear. Plant because this is photosynthetic in nature. Fine. And why animals? Because it can move. Next we have is slime moulds. Slime moulds are saprophytic protista students, and the body moves along decaying twigs and leaves engulfing organic material. Okay. Now under suitable conditions they form an aggregation called plasmodium which may grow and spread over several feet. Students, during unfavorable conditions, the plasmodium differentiates and forms fruiting bodies bearing spores at their tips. Now the spores possess true walls and they are extremely resistant and survive for many years even under adverse condition. And the spores that are being formed, they are dispersed by air current. So you can see here. Now coming on to the next category, that is protozoans. All protozoans are heterotrophs and live as predator or parasites. They are believed to be primitive relatives of animals. Students, there are four major groups of protozoans. We have amoeboid protozoans, flagellated protozoans, ciliated, and sporozoans. Fine. So first one we have is the amoeboid protozoans. These organisms live in fresh water, seawater, or moist soil. They move and capture their prey by putting out schizopodia, students, which are known as false feet as in amoeba, and marine forms have silica shells on their surface, some of them such as entamoeba and parasites. Now coming on to the next one, that is the flagellated type of protozoan, where the members of this group are either free living or parasitic. They have flagella which helps them in movement, and the parasitic form cause diseases such as sleeping sickness, example trypanosoma, which we have already discussed, my dear students. Now next we have is the ciliated protozoans. These are aquatic, actively moving organism because of the presence of thousands of cilia. They have a cavity which is known as gullet that opens to the outside of the cell surface. Students, the coordinated movement of the row of cilia causes the water laden with food to be stirred into the gullet. Fine. So with the help of these cilia, they can actually have that food inside their gullet. Example, paramecium. Fine. So you can see here, this is the structure of paramecium, and there are number of cilia that is present outside the body. Next we have is the sporozoans. This includes diverse organisms that have an infectious spore-like stage in their life cycle, and the most notorious is Plasmodium, which is a malarial parasite which causes malaria, which has a staggering effect on human population. Now students, coming on to the next kingdom, that is kingdom fungi. Now the fungi constitute a unique kingdom or heterotrophic organism. They show a great diversity in morphology and habitat. Most fungi are heterotrophic and absorb soluble organic matter from dead substrate and hence are called saprophytes. Students, those that depend on living plants and animals are called parasites. They can also live as symbionts in association with algae as lichens and with the roots of higher plant as mycorrhiza. Reproduction in fungi can take place by vegetative means, that is fragmentation, fission and budding. You all have studied these processes in your previous classes. Asexual reproduction is by spores called conidia or sporangiospores or zoospores, and sexual reproduction is by oospores, fine, or basidiospores. You can see here students, we have lot of fungi has been shown here. Unicellular yeast, agaricus, shelf fungus, toadstool, rhizopus. Fine. Now, multicellular fungi consist of long, slender filament called hyphae. Some hyphae are continuous, other are divided by septa. And a mass of connected hyphae is called the mycelium. It grows through and digested substrate. You have studied this thing in your 10th class, students. Now, fungi, see, it's different categories. First of all, we have is the Ascomycetes, then Phycomycetes. Fine. Next we have is Basidiomycetes and Deuteromycetes. Fine. Now students, coming on to the first one, that is Phycomycetes. So members of Phycomycetes are found in aquatic habitats and on decaying wood in moist and damp places or as obligate parasites on plants. Now students, the mycelium is aseptate and cenocytic. Fine, it has no septa present. Now asexual reproduction takes place by zoospores that are motile, fine, or maybe by aplanospores which are non-motile in nature. These spores are produced in sporangium, students, and a zygospores is formed by fusion of two gametes. Now these gametes are similar in morphology and that is why they are known as isogamous. Here iso means same, or we can say similar, or dissimilar, that is known as oogamous or anisogamous. Students, some common examples are mucor, rhizopus, the bread, and albugo, the parasitic fungi on mustard. Coming on to the next one, that is Ascomycetes. So it is commonly known as sac fungi. The Ascomycetes are mostly multicellular, example penicillium, or rarely unicellular, example yeast Saccharomyces. Fine. They are saprophytic, decomposers, parasitic, fine, which grow on dung, and mycelium is branched and septate. Now students, the asexual spores here are conidia. They produced exogenously on the special mycelium called conidiophores. These conidia on germination produce mycelium, and sexual spores are called ascospores, which are produced in sac-like asci. Singular is ascus. Fine. So here these ascospores are formed inside these asci, students, and these asci are arranged in different types of fruiting bodies called ascocarps. So these fruiting bodies are known as ascocarps. Some examples are aspergillus, fine, neurospora, which is extensively in biochemical and genetic work. Now students, next one we have is Basidiomycetes, which is commonly known as mushrooms. Fine, commonly they are known as mushrooms. They grow in soil, on logs and tree stumps, and in living plant bodies as parasites, fine, which needs a host. Example, rusts and smust. Now the mycelium is branched and septate, and the asexual spores are generally not found, but vegetative reproduction by fragmentation is common. The sex organs are absent, but plasmogamy is brought about the fusion of two vegetative or somatic cells by different strains or genotypes. Now students, the resultant structure is dikaryotic. Here karyons means nucleus, student, which ultimately give rise to basidium. Karyogamy and meiosis takes place in the basidium, producing 4 basidiospores, and the basidiospores are produced on the basidium. Fine. So these basidiospores, they are produced on the basidium. So in the basidium, the karyogamy takes place and meiosis division takes place, which results into the formation of 4 basidiospores, fine, which are produced on the basidium. Now the basidia are arranged in fruiting bodies, and these fruiting bodies are known as basidiocarps. Fine. Some common members are agaricus, Eustilago, smut, or Puccinia, rust fungus. Next we have is Deuteromycetes, commonly known as imperfect fungi because only the asexual or vegetative phase of these fungi are known. When the sexual forms of these fungi were discovered, they were moved into classes they rightly belongs to. It is also possible that the asexual and vegetative stage have been given one name and the sexual stage another. Fine. Now students, one perfect sexual stage of member of Deuteromycetes were discovered. They were often moved to Ascomycetes and Basidiomycetes. Now the Deuteromycetes reproduce only by asexual spores and these asexual spores are known as conidia. The mycelium is septate and branched and some members are saprophytes or parasites while a large number of them are decomposers of litter and help in mineral cycling. Some examples are Alternaria, fine, or Trichoderma. So I hope this thing is clear, students. Thank you everyone.